Hey guys, my name is Tal and welcome back to my channel. Today my video is gonna help you guys understand who the affordable housing process is for, and also just some extra tips that I have for you guys based on a reoccurring issue that I noticed. So I want to say these three things and I want to say it respectfully, right? So one is this: if you do not have patience, this process is not for you, because it's not an ABC process. There's a lot of steps involved and it requires you to have patience. Two, if you're trying to move within a short term, namely like 1 to 4 months, this process is also not for you. And the third thing is, if you're trying to, get favors or pull a fast move, or think, you could just get away with something, be sneaky, not qualify, but get a unit, this process is also not for you. Why I say that is, one, simply because there's a lot of steps involved in this process. So it requires patience, right? And there's no skipping steps. You have to follow the protocol just as everyone else. Two, the process from when the lottery, from Housing Connect until when you actually move in, we're looking at anywhere from 4 to 9 months or even more. It really depends where that developer is as far as their process. Like, is the building even finished? Like, did they start contacting applicants? There's a lot of different factors, right? So there's no standard time frame that I could say, oh yeah, it will be 3 months, or if anyone could just give you a specific time frame, right? And the third reason is, I try to say, like, if you try to like get any favors, think, oh, someone could just slide you in and make it happen for you. It doesn't work like that. There are so many people involved in this process that there are so many eyes on an application before it's approved. So it's impossible for anyone to do you a favor and hook you up with a unit. It just doesn't work like that, right? And so oftentimes there's an internal, whether they have an internal compliance and leasing team reviewing the files, and some company have a third party where they send the files electronically to that third party to review. And once they review it, if everything looks good, then they send it to the city. So there's a lot of different steps involved, and a lot of different eyes on the information before it gets to the agency. So if you're applying, guys, be patient and be on top of this, right? So this channel is created to help you guys understand the process better, and just to give you guys some insider tips and just different approaches that you can take. However, that does not eliminate you actually doing your own research and actually reading the information and knowing where to reference it, guys. So people suffer because of lack of knowledge. My grandfather always told me that, and it's also a general saying, and it's so true, right? I could tell you that I know there's been so many people that were wrongfully rejected, and you know what? They will never know because they never took time out to actually read the protocol. So not only am I breaking it down for you guys, I'm telling you where you could locate this information. And I say that specifically to talk about this pandemic stimulus payments, right? So this is new, right? So this is not going to be written in the HDC Marketing Handbook. However, it's considered as an extenuating circumstance, and extenuating circumstance is covered in the Marketing Handbook. While it's not written in the Marketing Handbook, this is also public information. So, obviously, again, I'm a compliance manager, so I get these emails directly from the city. Obviously, I know that you guys don't get the email from the city, but this information is also available on HUD's website, right? This information, you could simply type in IRS, because IRS is for tax credit. That's HDC and HPD governs the whole tax credit. And then Section 8. HUD is Section 8. However, oftentimes the guideline mirrors each other. Not all their guidelines are the same. But as it relates to the pandemic stimulus payment, HUD and IRS guidelines are the same regarding that income being excluded, right? So what would you do? You could Google this information, guys. Google IRS guidance on stimulus payment for low income housing tax credit, right? And you'll see this information come up. Obviously, there's going to be a lot of different links or articles that you could read, but now I'm here to tell you some credible sources that if you see these names, you can actually trust this information. So one, the main source, always try to get it from like HUD's website, right? Where you could specifically see that it stated that this income is excluded. And if they argue that HUD is Section 8, advise them that HUD is following the IRS guidelines, and there was guidance issued. I think HDC sent out the email April 20th regarding this guidance, right? And let me tell you a few names. So U.S. Housing Consultants, that's a reputable company that they've been issuing a lot of guidances regarding this whole stimulus payment and other changes as it relates to the pandemic. So you could Google U.S. Housing Consult. What was I gonna say? U.S. Housing Consult guidance on stimulus payment for low-income housing tax credit, and you should see an article come up. If you Google that same information, if you see information from NCHM, that's a credible source. It's NCHM. That's the company that they have a lot of different training for specialists in the housing industry. I have certificates from them. I took many courses with them. If you see guidance from QUADEL, it's not common that you see guidance published from QUADEL, but if you do see any guidance from QUADEL, QUADEL is a reputable agency as well, reputable company as well, right? But Google this information, guys, so you could have that as proof. You can't tell the specialist that the lady from YouTube told you that. They're going to look at you like you're crazy. When people used to tell me that they read stuff online, I'm being honest, it's like irritating because I'm thinking the worst, because people always write terrible things online about affordable housing. And I'm saying this to say, it's not like the information I'm providing you is accurate. I would never come on here and tell you anything that I'm not 1,000% sure about and that I don't have written proof for, or I've not gone through myself in the capacity, as working for a developer, right? But you can't use me as a credible source. You understand? You have to show them in the books. You have to show them from HUD's website, or if you find guidance from IRS, that's what you have to show them, guys. You can't say the lady from YouTube. So I always tell people this: unless your income is straightforward, or your application is straightforward, everything is plain Jane, you have one W-2 job, your pay statements is straightforward, you have your one bank account, it's just you and one other person, everything is smooth sailing, that's fine. But if you have self-employment income, you need to be reading. If you any unique circumstance, you need to be reading. If you're receiving this pandemic money, you need to be reading. Because guess what, guys? Especially this pandemic, right? This is something that's new. I had this question before the guidance was even issued. I actually reached out to the agency before the guidance was issued. So I want to give you guys this, just to understand the back end. And this is not to scare you, but this is all the more reason why you should educate yourself. So first I want to say this, right? In compliance, there's a lot of turnovers, right? So sometimes they have new staff that hasn't been properly trained. And not only that, guys, like when I started in this industry, the company I worked for, they hired a third-party compliance company. So technically I was somewhat trained. I learned through experience, but I was somewhat trained by them, right? But as I started doing more, a lot of the things they were saying didn't make sense to me. And I'm sorry, but my grandfather will roll in his grave if he knows that I'm sitting and doing something that doesn't make sense to me. So I questioned a lot of the training and the direction that they gave me because it didn't make sense. And some battles I won, some I didn't win. But there's somewhere I had to escalate it because I straight up at one point I told my supervisor, I'm not doing this because this does not make sense, right? Like me being in this industry, and I talked about this in previous videos, when I realized how the self-employed applicants were not being processed simply because people didn't understand how to do it and they didn't want to allocate the extra time to do it, that became my focus. Like I was like, I wanted to make sure it got personal for me. I wanted to make sure that these people were not simply denied because someone doesn't understand how to calculate their income or doesn't want to take the time. So I began to serve the underserved. That was my main focus, right? And at one point I even had to reach out to the agency and break down scenarios to them because no one wanted to touch on that. But why am I saying all this, right? That particular compliance company, they were making up their own rules. They were making up their own rules, and it happens in the industry, guys. I've experienced it. Like even to date, a colleague of mine that works for the city, we have an internal joke. Anytime someone brings something to our attention, like, and it's something like where the agent messed up, we're like, oh, are they from there? So there's two companies that anytime I see their names, I'm just like, oh God, because I already I didn't even have any expectations. I'm already thinking the worst. And not to discredit them, I'm sure they've gotten better to date. I'm talking about 6-7 years ago, but I'm sure things have gotten better. But I'm saying that to say this. At times, don't put that so much confidence in the person processing your application. Do your homework too. The information is there. The HDC Marketing Handbook breaks down all the steps, right? So do your homework, right? Don't just whatever they say. And a lot of people have been telling me, well, the specialist told them that the pandemic money counts. I said the money does not count. Like the guidance is specific. The money is excluded. A lot of times I told you guys about the scenario where I had to tell my friend what to say to the specialist because when she was telling her something that was not true. Guys, it's written. That is public information. That money is not included. So any specialist tell you that money is included, please Google the information from HUD's website and send that information to them. And a lot of people say, well, they have to appeal or whatever, right? Appeal it. And I recommend that you appeal directly with them, because if you get that final determination and appeal to the city, the process is going to be much longer for the city to review your appeal. And also, chances are the units may be filled by the time the city reviews your appeal. And then even though they will overturn it, then you're going to be on a wait list for a next available unit. But nip it in the butt right now, guys. Do your research. Affordable housing, if your circumstance is unique, you have to do a little reading. I assure you it will be worth it, but invest the time in understanding the process more. Is that your job? Should you be going through all of this? No, I get it. But guess what? If you really want that apartment, you got to do the legwork. And if I'm getting a beautiful apartment for $500-$600, I don't mind putting some time into making sure they process my information correctly. So I just had to belch that off, guys. You can't tell someone a lady from YouTube told you. You got to send them references, right? Credible sources, whereas this is from IRS themselves or this is from HUD themselves. Like, that is a credible source. So I'm giving you this information so you know, but now you got to go find it. and it's public information. This is not some top secret hidden somewhere where you can't find it. That is not the case. So now I had to vent a little because I took it personal, and it just brought me back. And I would not be surprised that it's the same agency that just makes my blood boil that is telling people that. Because even though the city sent this email to the developers, a lot of time they don't read, and people make up their own rules sometimes. So you have to do some legwork. So now that I said that, right? So I want to get to a few other requests briefly for topics that people wanted me to talk about. I wanted to make this video under 15 minutes, but I failed again at that. So someone asked about what is the Housing Connect 2.0. So if you go to HDC's website, just literally type in HDC and you'll see NYC HDC. Once you go to their website, you stroll down and you see New York 2.0. That information there will tell you about what the whole new Housing Connect 2.0 is. I'm not familiar with that because from a developer's end, all I do is I had a login for Housing Connect where I go in and retrieve applications. So from the developer's standpoint, we don't have much to do with Housing Connect. That's the city's stuff where all the data is entered. But go to the HDC website and you read that information regarding the 2.0, just so you get a better understanding. Because one thing I'm not gonna do, guys, is misinform you, and I'm not gonna tell you anything that I haven't dealt with directly. That is not me. That will never be me. So I'm only telling you what I could sign off, what I'm 100% or 1,000% confident about. Someone asked about log numbers and preferences. So the preferences, there's different preferences. The community board, there's municipal employees. There's a lot of different preferences, and the lottery, that information will typically tell you the different preferences. Disability preference, they'll tell you the different preferences. So if you that is some can't even talk. Anyone with a preference, you get they go through the preferences first before they go to GP, which is general population. So as far as log number, when you apply in Housing Connect, you'll get an assigned log number, whether you apply via mail or online. I always recommend online, but to each his own if you want to do mail. Someone else said, if they miscalculate your AMI and you feel like you don't make that bracket and you'll qualify for a cheaper rent, can you appeal it? Yes, you can appeal it. Typically, whatever your income is, they look which AMI you qualify for, and they have to tell you both categories that you qualify for. In some cases, if there's a lower log number, say they have one unit in the lower AMI and a lower log number, then you qualify for that unit, then they have to give it to the next unit. I'm rushing because I think my memory is full. So if this get disconnected, just know that my memory is full, and then I'll do a part 2. I see the one page is cash saving. No, it doesn't matter how much cash you have or don't have. You just have to make sure, as long as your cash that you have do not exceed the asset cap. Let me see what else. I'm just reading the comments. I want to make sure that I address them directly. So someone wants to know what happened on the back end with the marketing agents while they wait for approval. So once the information is reviewed, guys, like you submit your information, they have to review it. Again, different companies have different structures. Some, they pass it on to a leasing manager, a compliance manager, or a third-party company. So typically, it could be a back and forth between the leasing specialist and the reviewer. So if they say, hey, correct this, or hey, this, then they bounce it back to the specialist. If the specialist need more documents, they come to you. or if the specialist just needs to correct something on their end, then they correct it and send it back. So it has to clear the reviewer before it gets to the city. And if additional information is needed, then the specialist is going to reach out to you. Once it clears the city, then they let you sign your HDC documents, and then they submit it to the city. Once it gets to the city, if everything looks good, it's approved. If additional information is needed, they're going to send that an email to the specialist, say, hey, we noticed these reoccurring deposits, we need clarification, or we noticed this asset wasn't verified. And then the agent is going to reach out to you to obtain that information and send it back to the city for approval. So they have to review it. Everything has to make sense before it gets to the city. Let me see what else. Someone said they have 10K in savings. Will that hurt you? No, absolutely not. None of the asset caps are 10K, so that will not factor into anything. I know I kind of rushed through this video, but this is just a general overview, and I'm going to try to do more interactive videos like this where I directly answer your questions. So I hope this information was helpful, guys, but honestly, I want you guys to prepare yourself. That's why I'm being so transparent with you. Please prepare yourself for this process. It is absolutely worth it, but it takes some legwork. Honestly, that is why I'm doing this, because way too many people get so discouraged because it just sounds like so much and so overwhelming. I assure you, if you work with the specialist and you provide the documents needed, it will be smooth sailing. But just be respectful to your specialist. Work with them. And also, guys, when I say send them the link, I'm not saying you're not telling them how to do their jobs, because a lot of them not knowing is no fault of theirs. Sometimes, again, I've seen it. I've seen companies just throw in a specialist and they start doing this stuff that they have no idea about. So don't, just respectfully say, if you're sending them a link, say, hey, I know that you said this pandemic income is included, but I found this information on HUD's website and it states that the income should be excluded. And you put your read receipt on the email. Just be polite. Don't be nasty about it, because that's not going to make the process any better. This is a lot. The back end of this, guys, a lottery is no joke. When I was heading the lease up for 3 different buildings, I had 2 staff members answering the phones for me because I wasn't even able to answer the phone. That's how time consuming it was, because no one has a quick question. Like, if I'm on the phone, it's like 20-30 minutes and I have to put my social worker hat on, right? So I'm saying all this to say it's a lot on the back end. So just work with the specialist and do your part. Once you get in, the recertification process will not be as intense as the initial process, but work towards getting in. So it requires legwork, and if you really want this housing opportunity, you will do the legwork. As always, I am here for you guys, and again, I assure you that whatever information I provide you with, I could back it 1,000%. A lot of the information that I'm saying, it's public information, guys. You could Google it. Also, just make sure it's a credible source that you're referencing. If it's something that's not in the marketing handbook, and again, pandemic, you're not going to see the COVID language in the marketing handbook, because the marketing handbook is not something that's updated in real time. And the COVID-19 is considered an extenuating circumstance. I think I was all over the place with this video, but I hope it was helpful. And as always, if you have questions that were not addressed in the videos, you could email affordablehousinghelp@gmail.com. Before you email me, please reference the videos. I know I have probably 20 emails to respond to right now and a few comments. I will work my way through those tonight, between today and tomorrow. Yeah, but be hopeful, guys. You're in. If you applied, you have a chance. Just hang in there. Don't be discouraged, but do the legwork. Make it easier for yourself and the reviewer. That's all I want, guys. That's all I want, for you to get through this process, get your keys, and then move in. It could be like, oh, I'm so grateful that I completed the process. I did it. So that's the end goal. Trust me, it is so rewarding. I've rented apartment from $400 to $10,000 for market rate. And to be honest with you, the market rate, when I did the market rate showing, I only did that 1 day a week, because that's not me. Like, I don't need to put on my voice and tell you the counters from Milan and this and that. Like, no. What I want to see is going into the apartment, opening that door, and know that this family life is about to change. That's what I like to see. That's a social worker in me. When I look at these family and they're crying and they're just so overjoyed and just can't believe that they got this opportunity, that's what I love to see. And that's why I'm still in this industry. That's why I'm doing these videos for you guys, because I know how rewarding and priceless that moment is. That is the reason why I'm educating you guys, so you could continue the step and not just give up because it seems like too much. Like, the end result is so rewarding that it's worth it. All right, so hang in there. I'm here to support you, but as I support you, also support yourself, right? There's more that you have to do for you. Read. Like, if you know me, I'm gonna tell you that 1,000,000 times. Read. They hide stuff in the books because they know we'll never open it. Let's break that cycle, guys. Read and educate yourself. They will look at you different. You don't even need to speak to them like you heard it from YouTube. I don't want you to go in these interviews speaking to them like you heard this from YouTube. No, I want you to speak with confidence. I want them to know that you understand this process and you're not just repeating what someone else says. Speak with confidence. Don't make this about the lady on YouTube. I want you to make this about you. Let them be mindful when they're handling your application, because they're like, oh, this lady or this gentleman know what they're talking about. So let them proceed with caution when they're reviewing your information. But if you sound like, oh, you don't really know, then they're gonna be like, whatever goes. She ain't gonna know, or he ain't gonna know, that this is a wrongful rejection anyway. No, I want your heads held high. Speak with confidence. Let them wonder. Let them go check with their supervisors before they even have the audacity to come to you to tell you that your application is rejected. That's what I want, guys, and that's why I'm feeding you this information. So just help me help you. All right, the end result is greater. I'm here for you guys. Continue to